Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. We're going to talk about the last 7 books that I read in the month of February. So over the course of February, I actually read 13 books and I talked about the first half in my other video, which was my mid-month wrap-up. So I'll link it if you would like to check out my thoughts on those books, but we're going to talk about the 7 that I finished in the last 2 weeks. So let's start off with one of my buddy reads, which was The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. I have been reading this one since the beginning of January. I read it with Berna from Berna's Bookish Adventures, and I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. I feel like I said my thoughts pretty well in my dedicated book review of this. I'll link that one as well if you want to check it out. But basically, I felt like I had such high hopes for The Three Musketeers, and I really did not enjoy the personalities of the heroes, and that really dampened the whole book for me. It was just a little disappointing for that. I thought that the plot was really well executed and all those things, but I didn't like, and when I say all those things, I mean like plot twists and arcs and stuff. But the character arcs of the Three Musketeers, I did not, for the most part, like. So I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. And I did make a dedicated video, like I said, so you can go check it out. I kind of rag on the Musketeers, but it's how I feel. So my next book was also a buddy read, which was with Janelle from Too Fond of Books. We buddy read House of Treason, The Rise and Fall of the Tudor Dynasty. This is by Robert Hutchinson. I expected this one to be about the Tudors, not about the Howards. So this book is all about the family, like the Duke of Norfolk and his family, throughout 4 generations of kings, and how, well, and queens, because Mary and Elizabeth are in that list as well. But basically it shows these different Dukes of Norfolk and how they handled things, how they were often very full of treason towards their royalty, or how they were thought to be. I thought it was really interesting. I give it 4 stars. I liked how well researched it was and how authentic it felt. It was filled with letters and documentation, so I could actually see these people's writing themselves. I also loved the funny anecdotes of stories of people who in this book, and just the crazy things that happened in England at this time. So I recommend this one if you're wanting a book that's about the Tudors from a different perspective, because this one definitely fits that bill. I should also say that all of these books were for readathons, and I will talk about that at the end of this video, but we're just going to do book reviews first. And I kind of gave you a sneak peek, and the next book is The Mother of the Brontes, When Maria Met Patrick by Sharon Wright. So this one was for our Fierce Women's Book Club, and we read it over the course of 2 months. I read it in February and I really enjoyed it. It was also a 4-star book for me. I thought it was really interesting how Maria grew up and how this book describes the places where she lived. It also describes the different events that happened near her or around her or to her. And I thought it was really interesting. It is a nonfiction and it's a researched look into Maria's life and what happened before she had the Brontes, who we all famously know of as Charlotte, Emily, and Anne. So I really liked this one a lot. I had no idea of this history, and I do have a dedicated video that came out on the 3rd, so you can check out that as well if you want to see my thoughts on this one. I also finished off my reread of Harry Potter, the whole series. So this is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I listened to it on audio and also read some of it. And it has been a long time since I read it. I did not read it as a child, so I don't have any sentimental attachment to it, but I do really enjoy the story and the different things that keep showing up in the book. I really enjoyed my reread of this series, so I'm glad I finished this one, and that's one series checked off the list of my goals. So my next book was one that I didn't expect to love this much. I knew everyone loved it, but I did not realize I would too. And that's Binti by Nnedi Akafour. I hope I'm saying her name right, but this book was good. This novella was like, I started listening to it on audio and then I found my physical copy from the library and I just read through it so fast. This book is incredible and it's like 90 pages. It's about Binti, who I'm sure everyone who knows about this, but I didn't. It's about Binti, who is kind of viewed as like lowest of the low of the humans, and she's accepted into this school, being the first one of her people to ever be accepted to go to the university on a different planet. However, on their journey there, things happen. It's a science fiction. I didn't know what to expect, but as soon as the big event happened, if you read this book like 30 pages in, I was like, I need to know more. Like, what's going on in this world? And I can't stop reading it. It was just so interesting, and I loved Binti, and I feel like I got to know her in such a short book. And the world, I mean, it wasn't that much of a world building situation, but man, her story, I've already got the other two on hold from the library because I need to read more from this series. And I'm not a series reader typically, but I need to read more from this series. So this is like my biggest surprise so far of the year is Binti, and I am really excited about it. So I recommend this one a lot. This was 5 stars. It was spectacular. My next thing was The Rose and the Yew Tree. So this is by Agatha Christie, but this was written under her pen name of Mary Westmacot. And this was under her, so when she wrote under Mary Westmacot, she wrote romance novels. However, this was like a romance novel if Romeo and Juliet is a romance. It's very tragic. This follows a man named Hugh who was in a car accident, and he is in a wheelchair now. And it just follows him talking about his experience with this woman named Isabella. But it also is more about the people around him and how they respond to him. I thought that was really interesting, and I really appreciated the way that he just talked about life. And I mean, I'm not in a wheelchair. I've never been in a wheelchair, so I can't speak to that representation, and I would love to hear someone's representation view on it who is in a wheelchair all the time. I would love to hear what people think. I have tried looking at reviews and I haven't found any. I feel like these books are pretty obscure in the Agatha Christie world, so I would love to hear people's thoughts on this book. If you have a disability that puts you in a wheelchair, I'd love to hear that. But the way he talked about different things and like pain and living through it, I really appreciated that kind of discussion in this book. So I didn't expect that walking in. This book is a lot about a love triangle. It happens about, so there's Isabella, who is this young woman around in his town, and he was recently injured, so he's feeling no point in living. And then also there's this politician named John Gabriel who comes into town and is trying to become a politician. He's not really a politician from before, but he's trying to become one. And it's a really interesting story. I give it 4 stars. I think it's really dynamic with its relationships and the different things in here. I will say there is trigger warnings for attempted, well, maybe not attempted suicide, but thoughts of suicide. There's also trigger warnings here for abuse. And it just shows the hardships of life. It's very tragic, and it is labeled a romance, but I would call it more literary fiction, to be honest. However, I do call it a romance for my TBR clue game, as it is shelved under that. My ring light just changed settings, so hopefully this isn't too awful. Anyways, yeah, this one was about human nature, essentially, and I really recommend reading it. It's not a romance in a typical form. It's not a mystery, but it is really, really unique to my experience of reading Agatha Christie. So I recommend this one, The Rose and the Yew Tree. And I'm excited to read more of her romance novels, even though I've heard they're all very dark and very gothic-like. And I can understand why after reading this one. So I'm excited to try more of her romance novels, as I do plan on reading all of her works eventually, but this is one genre I hadn't expected to enjoy from her. So my final book that I have read so far this month was actually a Shakespeare play. I have already read 10 Shakespeare plays so far this year. I am loving the experience of watching them or listening to them on full cast audio. I feel really like this is the year of Shakespeare for me, and I am loving it. So I watched Julius Caesar, which is the Marlon Brando one from 1953. This one was in black and white, which was interesting. I haven't watched a really old Shakespeare play in a while. And I really enjoyed it. It was good. This one is all about Julius Caesar and how he is assassinated and the buildup of the group of people who are going for it, and then also the way it affects Mark Antony. And it's an interesting play. I thought it was very interesting. I really liked the acting in this one especially, but I felt like it showed a real story about political going-ons in Rome, ancient Rome. And I also feel like it showed an interesting friendship dynamic between Brutus and Julius Caesar. So there's that whole thing. I liked seeing this dynamic. I feel like as a historical fiction, this is a really interesting play, and I really recommend watching this version. I haven't really experienced it in other forms, but I do know some history. And so I thought that this was a good adaptation of it. And I really liked how it all looked. It felt very classic in a really interesting way because it was black and white. But I recommend this one. So that would be the Julius Caesar with the Marlon Brando from 1953. So now we'll go over all the readathons and how everything fit in for them. First of all, for the Blacklit Challenge, I'll move over here. So for Love Shack, I did complete House of Treason. Black Future Month, I read Binti. Goo Goo Eyes, I read Mother of the Brontes. Words of Affirmation, I read Educated. Love Language was Three Musketeers. Skip a Beat was Rose and the Yew Tree. Quality Time was The Three Musketeers. Gifts was The Mother of the Brontes. I gifted it to myself for Christmas with someone else's gift card that they gave me, so it all works out. Next was Opposites Attract for Solo, which I did read. My Sunshine, which I read Little Miss Matchmaker. Long Distances, I read Binti. Head Over Heels, Three Musketeers. Touch was Educated. Long-Term Ship was House of Treason. Sharing is Caring, which was White Rage. I read all of these that I'm talking about. Love Song was Little Miss Matchmaker. Acts of Service was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Dreams Come True, which was Little Miss Matchmaker. And Commitment Issues was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. And the last one was First Date, which I read Mother of the Brontes for. So that was for the Valentine's Challenge. I did a complete blackout. I'm very happy, although I did use many prompts for the same book. It all works. Next was Blacklit Challenge, which I read Binti, White Rage, and Solo for. So I'm happy that I finished off the 3 books that I did want to read in the month for the Blacklit Challenge. Then for Buzzwordathon, I read White Rage, and I finished it long after, like the week after Buzzwordathon, but I started it then and I finished it in February, so it counts. Little House Readathon, which I did participate in. I read Young Pioneers and half, or well, maybe just under half of Pioneer Girl, but I haven't finished it yet. I'll finish it eventually. Then for my book clubs and buddy reads and all those things, I did everything. And then for Historathon, I didn't manage to read anything except for Young Pioneers, so that one also wasn't high on my priority list as I didn't have many books that fit into it before my TBR jar picks. So in regards to stats, I read 4,377 pages for the month of February, which I'm really impressed with, although some of that is from Three Musketeers, like 300 of that, which belongs in January. And then for most part, I think I gave everything except for 2 books 4 or 5 stars, so it was a good quality reading month. So in regards to genres, I read 5 historical fiction, 4 nonfiction. I read 1 mystery, which is a shock, 1 YA contemporary, and 1 YA fantasy. I also read 1 science fiction. And then I also read 2 romance, which I would technically consider Rose and the Yew Tree literary fiction, but it is classified under romance. So 2 romance for this month. So in regards to any goals or anything like that, I did finish 1 series. I did read my Agatha Christie, And I actually did read 2 Agatha Christie's to make up for January. I also read my 1 Timeless Tomes, and I read a Shakespeare this month. I read 3 Shakespeare this month. So I am on track for all of my goals monthly wise. And the final page total that I am at so far this year, which is actually really exciting, is 7,581 pages. I don't think I am at that goal because I wanted to be at 8,400, but I am not far off, and I can hopefully make that up in March or upcoming months. So that will be it for me in this video. I've thrown out a lot of stats, but I feel like I read a good amount this month, obviously in page count, but also in quality. That's always what I'm aiming for, is quality. I think my favorite this month was Binti, which is a shock, and my least favorite this month was The Three Musketeers. So I would love to have your comment down below be, what's your least favorite book that you read in the month of February? I would love to have some interesting discussions about why certain books are not your favorite in the comments. Also, if you like this video, please like it and subscribe if you are new here and you would like to. I will see you next time in another video. Bye for now.